Okay, listen carefully to how I'm going to describe this because this is how we are proceeding going forward. Do you see that eraser button on your Notability?
Yes.
You are not allowed to use it anymore. I want you, every time you make a mistake, to circle where you made a mistake, write down the mistake that you made, and then copy down the rest of the problem the right way. Are we clear on that? So let's say you made a mistake when you were dividing by 3. You would leave everything, you would circle your mistake and write down what mistake you made. Maybe you divided by 3, you got 0.6, whatever it may be, okay? But I need you guys keeping track of your mistakes. The reason I'm doing that is because on the quiz, guess how many of us made silly mistakes and it cost us? A lot. So, circle whatever mistake you made. Here is the correct answer and all of the steps. If you did not get 0.8, find your mistake, circle it, talk to the people in your group right now as to the mistake that you made, and if you got it, share that you got it, whatever floats your boat, but you must discuss. Go. Linear inequalities in 2 variables, okay? So, do you guys remember before when we would have like x is less than 7, right? We would draw a number line, and what would we do to the left of 7? Open circle, and we would do what then? You would shade to the left, right? We are now going to be talking when we have x and y is less than, or x and y is greater than, and then a number, okay? So we are comparing 2 variables, x and y, in an inequality. Remember, an inequality is any less than, greater than, less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to symbol. We are no longer seeing what symbol? The equal sign, okay? That does not exist in this lesson, okay? We'll see it because we have to use it for some parts of it, but we are looking at inequalities, okay? All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to tell whether these ordered pairs are solutions of the inequalities, right? So do you guys remember when we had an ordered pair? Go ahead. And we would determine whether it was a solution of the system of equations. What would we do with that ordered pair? Karen? You'd plug it in. We do the same thing here. So we're going to take this -1, 9. Go ahead and box it in. And we're going to replace -1 for what? X. And we're going to replace 9 for what? Y. And then if the inequality is satisfied, in other words, it gives us a true statement at the end, this is a solution. If it doesn't work, then this is not a solution. Let's test it out. So go ahead for x, replace it with -1, and for y, replace it with 9. We're going to get 2 times -1 plus 9 is less than -3. Are there any questions on how I substituted in? Okay, what do I do from this point? AJ? Good, what do I get? So I have -2. What happens with the plus 9? Mia, what do I do?
Just drop it down and then add them together.
Good. What's being multiplied by the 9 here?
1.
A 1. If you need to write that 1 in there, do so, okay? But 1 times 9 gives me what? So it's just 9, okay? Because do you remember how this 2 outside the parentheses got multiplied by the -1? There's a 1 here, but 1 times 9 just gives you 9. So whenever we have parentheses with no number in front, you can just remove the parentheses because it's just multiplying by 1. Does that make sense, David? Okay, so it should be less than -3. What is -2 plus 9, Austin? 7. Is 7 smaller than -3? So is this a true or a false inequality? False. So we would say as our final answer, how do we write my final answer? Segi?
-1, 9 is not a solution.
Is not a solution. Very good. Juliana, you with me? Emma? Alec, how we doing? Good. Okay. Let's do B. All right, for letter B, what do I do? Miss Alonzo, walk me through it, please.
You put 2x.
Okay, replace 2 with x. And? Very good. So substitute into your equation. What do you get?
You get 2x
Super close. Mia?
There's not supposed to be X there.
Good. We are replacing X with the 2. Do you see that, Caitlin? So don't erase what you put, okay? Just rewrite it again over here on the left and put 2 plus 6 is greater than or equal to 8. Now, I'm going to add a step because it should have been 2 minus 3 times negative 2, which is greater than or equal to 8. So if we write this where we're plugging in, it should be 2 minus 3 times negative 2. Negative 3 times negative 2 gives me positive 6. I add them together. I get 8 is greater than or equal to 8. Colin, is this true or false, and why?
True, because 8 is equal to.
Very good. 8 is greater than or equal to 8 because it is the same. So how do I write my answer, Colin?
2 comma negative 2 is a solution.
Is a solution. Anytime you put a check mark at the end, that means it is a solution. It satisfied the inequality. Anytime it's an X because it didn't work, it's not going to be a solution. Salucci, you good? All right. C. Braden, walk me through it, please.
Oh, negative 2 plus 2. And then, less than 0.
Less than 0?
More than. Greater.
That's a greater than symbol. Good.
And then, is 0.
Braden, is 0 larger than 0? No. Casey, what's my final answer here? How do I write it?
Negative 2, 2 is not a solution.
Is not a solution. Are we good? Okay. I would like you guys, please skip D and E. You can do them if you would like. Jump down to F and do that problem. Go. Take 30 seconds, discuss in your groups whether you got it or not. And if you made a mistake, you need to write down what your mistake was and copy down the right answer. Go. Did we talk about it? Okay, remember, mistakes are good. Can anyone share a mistake that they made? Totally okay. McCarvin? Matthew? Guys, I need a mistake. It's okay. What about a potential mistake you could see yourself making on this problem? Very good. Guys, did we all take a negative 3 and multiply it by a negative 7?
Yep.
That should have given us a positive 21. Could you see yourself maybe making that mistake? Make a mental note, guys, okay? Good job if you changed it to a positive. If you missed that negative, it's okay. Just circle it and write down a note to yourself, okay? All right, moving to examples. If a point worked, if it was a solution, those points would lie in the shaded region. If they didn't work, those points would not be in the shaded region, okay? And so the second part of today's lesson is we are going to start graphing linear inequalities with 2 variables, okay? So what that means is normally when we graphed, for example, like y equals mx plus b, right? We would get a line that would get created on our graph. Do you guys remember that? That line would have a slope and a y-intercept. We're still going to be graphing that line, but afterwards, we are shading a part of our graph, okay? Because it's going to be an inequality. So half of the graph will be solutions, and the other half will not be solutions. Before, when we had an equal sign, the only points that worked for that equation were the points on that line, okay? Now, our line is just the boundary. And all the points in the shaded half, whichever side is shaded, are points that would satisfy that inequality, okay? So if you look back at look at this graph. I would like you guys to put 2 points. I would like you to put negative 1, comma 3, and I would like you to put 3, comma 0 on this graph. Now, only one of these points works for the inequality. Which point is it? Karen? 3, comma 0. So put a check mark next to it. Why would 3, comma 0 work here? Yep.
It's in the shaded area.
It's in the shaded area. Will negative 1 comma 3 work for this inequality? No. Put an X. And why won't it work? Why won't it work? Caitlin? Very good. It's not part of the solution. Our solution now is the shaded region. So if it's outside the shaded region, it's not going to work, okay? Now, my job is to make sure that you guys know how to create this, okay? And there's 3 steps that we have to do to create our own graph, okay? Step number 1 is you graph the boundary line for the inequality. In other words, we're graphing that line. And you use a dashed line for a less than or a greater than symbol. And use a solid line when it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. Do you guys remember the closed dots versus the open dots? It's the same thing. So when it's less than or greater than, dotted line or an open dot. And then when it's greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, it's going to be a solid line, okay? I need you to write one more thing. We're always going to write our boundary line in y equals mx plus b, okay? So our boundary line is going to be y equals mx plus b, and that'll show us where our boundary has to be. Step number 2 is you test a point that is not on the boundary line to determine whether it is the solution of the inequality. Now, remember, that point cannot be on the boundary line, but you are free to pick any point that you would like. My recommendation is to always pick 0, 0 if you can, okay? So what a good point would be to use, I would put in here 0, 0. Because plugging in for 0 and plugging in 0 for x and 0 for y, that's really convenient because a lot of stuff is going to disappear. Do you guys agree? What else would be a good point to pick, to test? Yeah. 1, 1 would be great. Or 1, 0 or 0, 1, right? Those are all really good points because they're easy numbers to plug in for x and y, okay? All right, and then step number 3. If the solution works, you're going to shade that side. If it doesn't work, you're not going to shade that side, okay? You're going to shade the other side. Now, it is a little bit confusing when I'm just reading it to you, but once you see an example, it'll make a lot more sense. So let's take a look at letter A. It's y is less than or equal to 2. We have to graph that. Step number 1. Replace your inequality symbol, which is a less than or equal to symbol, with an equal sign. So you're going to write y equals 2. Do you guys see that? I'm just replacing the less than or equal to symbol with an equal sign. Then you have to graph it. How do I graph y equals 2? What kind of a line is y equals 2? Karen? 0, 2 is correct. Andrea? It's horizontal. Why is it horizontal? There's no x. What's the slope when there's no x? My slope should be 0. So if you're not rising at all, right? If you're not rising at all, wouldn't that be a horizontal line? Okay, so my slope is 0. My y-intercept is 2. So I graphed it. Perfect. Next thing I have to check, should it stay as a solid line or should it change to a dotted line?
Solid.
This one needs to be solid. Why, David?
Because step number 1 is either solid line or less than.
Good. It's a less than or equal to symbol, so it's going to remain solid. We're moving on to step number 2. In step number 2, pick any point you want as long as that point is not on the line that we just graphed. Kira, I would like you to pick any point that you want. 1, 3 is perfect. 1, 3. Everyone put 1, 3 on your page. And in step number 2, write down that we're picking 1, 3. Are we allowed to use 1, 3? Why? Why are we allowed to use 1, 3? What was my one requirement of this point? It's not on the line. Is this blue point on the red line? No, so we can use it, okay? So what we do is we follow step number 3. You take these x and y values of 1 and 3 and plug them back into your original inequality. So rewrite the original inequality. It was y is less than or equal to 2. Is there an x to substitute for 1?
No.
No. Is there a y to replace with 3? Absolutely. So replace y with 3. Is 3 smaller than or equal to 2?
No.
No. So guys, this point is part of the non-shaded region because it doesn't work. Do you guys agree? So let's put an X there. Which side of the line should I shade then? The bottom. Now remember, that red line that goes across your graph should divide your graph into 2 parts. Do you guys see how there's a top part and a bottom part? We shade the side that has all of our solutions. Our solutions exist in the bottom because we saw that 1, 3 did not work for our solution. Matthew, did you have a question?
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask, how do you know which side you shade?
Okay, that's why we're testing the point, right? So Matthew, do you agree that when we plugged in 1, 3, it did not work? 3 is not less than 2? So this point should not be in the shaded region. So then we have to shade the other side. Now I dare you guys, go ahead and pick any point in the shaded region and test it. It will work. Any point in the shaded region, test it and it will work, okay? All right, moving on, letter B. Same thing, follow our steps. Step number 1, who remembers it?
Write down the equation with the equal sign.
Very good, write it again with an equal sign. So y is equal to -1. We also have to graph that guy. How do you graph y equals -1? AJ?
Horizontal line.
Good, horizontal line through -1. So draw a horizontal line through -1. That's our line.
Dotted.
Ah, very good, David. Why does it have to be dotted?
Not less than or equal.
Very good. It's not less than or equal to. Circle this symbol and write down it needs to be a dotted line. Mia?
What if it was greater than or equal to?
It would still be solid.
So it has to be less than or equal to.
No. Anytime it says less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, it's going to be solid. This is a less than or a greater than symbol. Do you agree? With no equal to sign underneath it. So this one has to be dotted.
Okay.
A less than symbol with no equal sign underneath it has to be dotted.
What if it was a greater than symbol with no equal sign underneath?
Still dotted.
Okay.
Okay? Yes, David.
You gotta show dot on a graph.
Yeah, so you have to erase parts of your line. Okay, so it is dotted. Andrea?
Like, what do you mean by dotted? Like graph, like
Correct. So, or like dashed, right? So like a dashed line. Because this boundary line, it's not going to be part of our solution, okay? Any point that lies on this line will not be part of our solution. It won't satisfy the inequality. If it was solid, it would be included as part of our solution.
how do you have to separate it? Like you separated it.
I graphed, that's because I graphed y equals -1. Okay?
So like, but you put spaces in between.
You can put the spaces anywhere you want as long as it's dotted, okay? It doesn't have to look exactly like mine. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Then step number 2 is pick any point that what? Has to satisfy one condition. It's not on the line. Matthew, pick a point.
1/1.
1, 1? All right. 1, 1. That's our point that we're testing. What do I do with that point, Juliana? Good. Plug it in for y. Y is going to be 1. Is 1 larger than -1? Yes, it is. So that means we're going to put a check mark here. Which side do I graph? Now, pay attention. We're going to call this side, the top side, 1, the bottom side 2. Do I shade 1 or 2?
1.
Good, 1. So we're going to shade this side. Yes, Mia.
I don't understand what the difference between the dotted line and the straight line.
So the dotted line is just saying, right, if your y value was -1, let's pick a point on this line, right? So let's pick like 0, -1, right? If you plugged in -1 for y, Mia, does that satisfy this inequality? Is -1 larger than -1? No. So this line has to be dotted because it tells us where we're dividing our graph, but it's not going to be part of our solution. Now, in the solid line example, right? If you picked a point on here, for example, 5, 2, 2 does work because 2 is less than or equal to 2. Do you agree? So that's why that line has to be solid. So if it's solid, those are going to be parts of your solution. If it's dotted, they won't work when you plug them in. Does that help a little bit? Okay. Yes, Andrea.
So, any point that you pick in between like the spaces is gonna work?
No. So if I picked this point right here as well, right? -3, -1. -3, -1. This one also will not work.
What about the one below that? The line?
Below that still will not work. It's not part of our shaded region. But if you pick -3, 0, will this one work? Yes, because it's in the shaded region. Okay? Yeah, Mia.
So when you're picking a point, you can pick any point at
You
all.
can pick any
except
point you
the
want,
ones on the line.
except for the ones that are on the line. Because you need to find out which side to shade. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
McCarvin, yeah, go ahead. All right. Any other questions on this guy? Okay. Letter C. X is less than or equal to -4. What was step number 1 again, guys? Equal sign. So it's going to be x equals -4. How do I graph x equals -4? Sophia R.
You go to -4 on the x-axis and you put it on.
Okay.
Oh, and it's a line
Up and down, a vertical line. Very good. How did you know it was vertical?
because it's hopefully the x-axis, not the y-axis.
Okay, it's x equals. Very good. Okay, anytime it's x equals, it's going to be a vertical line. Anytime it's y equals, it's going to be horizontal. Look at the symbol that was used. Mia, your time to shine, baby. Solid or dotted line?
That's solid.
Very good. Why is it solid, Mia?
Because it's or equal to.
It's or equal to. Excellent. Okay, anytime you see that bar underneath, that should be a solid line. Okay. Step number 2. Colin, what point do you want to use?
0,
0,
-5.
-5.
Oh, wait.
Guys, you can use any point. It doesn't matter. That one works. Oh, did you want him to use -5, 0?
Yeah.
Well, too bad. Okay. 0, -5. Brooke, how do I test to see whether that's correct or not?
You plug it into the equation.
Good. Not the equation.
The x.
What is this called? What's the title of the lesson?
Inequalities.
The inequality, okay? Now, I'm glad that you said that, Brooke, because it's okay. But guys, don't plug it into the equation because most of the points will not work in the equation, but they will work in the inequality, okay? So when we plug it in, Brooke, what do we get?
-5 is less than or equal to -4.
Close. You're plugging in y for x. What are we plugging in for x? 0.
Is greater than or less than or equal to -4.
Good. 0 is less than or equal to -4. Is 0 less than or equal to -4?
Yes. I mean, no.
No. So if it's not part of our solution, do I shade the left or the right-hand side?
Left.
The left. Go ahead, Sophia.
Can't you just tell which way you're facing by the way the equality's facing?
Sure. If you learned it that way, you can. I don't teach it that way, though, because it gets more complicated. You'll trust me. In the next example, you'll be like, oh, I don't know how to do that. Okay? Questions on this guy?
Why not do number 8? Letter 8.
Say that one more time.
Why not do the next one?
You know how to do the next one? Well, the steps say the same, but in the next few examples, we're going to have X and Y. Before I move on, guys, are there any questions on letter C? Karen?
Why is it on the left side and not the right side?
Okay, I love that you asked that. I need someone else to explain why did I shade the left-hand side and not the right-hand side? Go ahead, Caitlin.
Because when you plugged in 0 for x, it wasn't positive.
Good. So what does that mean?
It means that the backside where the points are is not.
Good. The side that the point is on should not be shaded, so we shade the other side. Does that make more sense, Karen? Okay. How are we doing, guys? All right, let's try it out. Take a look at the next one. Same exact steps, people. Okay. What was step number 1?
Equal.
Use an equal sign. Okay. So rewrite this, but use an equal sign. So step number 1, we have negative x plus 2y equals 2. Remember, I need to graph him, right? What do I do?
Put in y equals mx.
Very good, Mia. Start putting it into y equals mx plus b form. What should I do to change this into y equals mx plus b?
Add x to both sides.
Add x to both sides. Add x. You're going to get 2y equals x plus 2. Then what? Divide by 2. What do I get when I divide by 2? 1 over 2x plus 1. Questions? Are we Gucci here? Can I get a volunteer to graph this for me? Go ahead, Andrea.
So you start at the 1,
Okay,
y axis,
good.
and then you go up 1 and then 2 to the right.
Up 1, 2 to the right. Beautiful. Gonna get a line that looks like this, people. Bless you. All right. Yeah, Austin, you can go as long as you answer my next question. Should my line be solid or dotted? Dotted, why?
Because there's not a line under it.
Good. It needs to be a dotted line because it's a greater than symbol in the beginning. So erase parts of your line. Andrea, it doesn't matter what parts you erase. Just make sure it shows up as dotted. Do you see that? Okay. Now, what Andrea was asking is she's saying, like, are the solid parts of this line, do those become solutions? No. Anywhere on that line is not a solution, okay? That's why it's dotted. It's like almost like an invisible line. But it does show us which side we need to now shade, okay? Now, what was step number 2?
Find a point
Find a point. And that point cannot be where?
on the line.
On the line. David, give me a point that's not on the line.
3 comma negative.
3 comma negative 2? I love it. 3 comma negative 2. Test it. 3 comma negative 2. Plug it into your inequality, which was the first one. So replace x with 3. It's going to be negative 3 plus 2 times negative 2 is greater than 2. You guys cool with plugging that into the inequality? Any questions there? Hello? Any questions? Andrea, what's up?
So, since everyone picks like where the spaces are, is everyone gonna have like a different point?
You may have a different point, yeah. But if you get it right, you shaded the right area. If you get it wrong, you did not shade the right area. So that's what I'll be looking for. Do I care what point you're using? No, as long as you don't pick a point that is on the line, okay? All right, so this is going to be negative 3. Do you guys agree? Because it's technically negative 1 times 3. And then what? Multiply 2 times negative 2, which gives me? So I have minus 4. Is negative 3 minus 4 going to be larger than 2? No, it's negative 7, and negative 7 is definitely not bigger than 2. So if this doesn't work, what do I do? Shade the other side. So do you guys agree that that point is below my line? So we're going to shade above my line.
Do you want the line to stretch across the whole?
Yes, please. Did you guys hear Mia's question? Do you want the line to stretch across the whole graph? And the answer is yes, because you need to say like that the graph is 2 parts, right? There's parts that are not the solution, parts that are the solution. All right, let's really see if we understand this. Go to 0, 10. Solution or not a solution? What about negative 7, negative 5? Not a solution. What about 0, comma, 1. Not a solution. Since it's a dotted line, any point on that line, on that boundary line, is not going to be a solution. Are we clear? If that was a solid line, if you were on the boundary, it would be a solution. Cool beans? Okay, let's do B. All right, in B, let's do our same steps. What was step number 1? Caden. Good, an equal sign. So x plus y equals -4. What would you do from there, Caden? Subtract the x. What do you get? Okay, can you graph that for me? Okay, so you started where? -4 on the y-axis. Then what'd you do?
Then you go down 1
Down 1
to the right.
to the right 1. Perfect. Do we agree with Caden? Okay, I have a question for you guys. Look at the graph and look at the slope. Why should I be very happy about these two? It's negative, and as we go left to right, it's going down. Do you guys see that? Always check that. Because if you have a positive slope and you end up with a graph like this, are you right? No. Okay? Only negative slopes as you go left to right go down. Okay? So, step number 2. Casey, can you pick a point for me? 0, 0 is perfect. So we're testing this point, 0, 0. Let's see if it works. When we plug it in, Seb, what do we get?
We get 0 plus 0 is less than or equal to -4.
Beautiful. 0 plus 0 is less than or equal to -4. Nick, is 0 less than or equal to -4? No. -4 is smaller. So if that doesn't work, Gabriel, which side do I shade? Gabe S.
The top, or the right side of it.
This side?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Gabriel L. Did you do it correctly? You did?
I think so.
Karen. Miss Alonzo? Good. Which side do we need to shade? Why?
Because it doesn't work there.
So let me show you guys a trick. Do you see how I put an X next to 0, 0? Do you guys see how I put an X because it didn't work? Do you guys agree? If you ever have an X, that X should never be shaded because it's not a solution. If you have a check mark there, should that be shaded? Yes. Always shade the side that is the solution, not the side that is not a solution. Okay? David, what's up? I did? Oh, you're right. Should it be a solid or a dotted line?
Solid.
Solid. Why?
Because there's
It's a less than or equal to symbol. Very good, David. Thank you. Any other questions on this example? Okay, I would like you to try C on your own. Go.